Perfect. So again, welcome. For those of you that have not heard of WEV before, we are a nonprofit organization serving business owners and entrepreneurs in the Santa Barbara and Ventura counties with programs in English and Spanish. We've been working in our community for over 29 years. Now, we don't only focus on serving entrepreneurs, we also focus on supporting and empowering women and women in business. We provide business loans, training, coaching, financial education, and other resources. That's a little bit about WEVE. So welcome, everyone. My name is Irene Kelly, and I am the Financial Education Program Manager at WEVE. And today it's our second session from our financial education series. And I'm very excited to introduce you to our guest speaker today. The topic for this session is going to be how to organize your finances with QuickBooks Online. Now, at the end of the day, we are here for you. So I want to take a moment to invite you to use our chat and write down one thing that you would like to get from our time together, one thing that brought you here today. Please just take a moment to acknowledge that. And also acknowledge the fact that you are on the right path because you're taking time to work on your financial well-being and the financial well-being of your business. So when it comes to business finances, to say that the last few months have been challenging would be an understatement. So now more than ever, we are seeing how important it is not only to be prepared financially speaking, but to be organized, right? The more organized we are, the better we can adapt to change. So that's why today's topic is so important, and I'm very excited to introduce you to our guest speaker. Her name is Juliana Ramirez. Juliana is a certified QuickBooks coach, and she's also the founder of JR Bookkeeping. Juliana, thank you so much for being here with us today. Yes, please say hello while I'm looking at the chat and saying hello to all these wonderful people that are joining us this evening.
Thank you, Irene. It's a pleasure to being here today, and I'm so happy and excited. QuickBooks is my favorite subject because I've been using it.
Not on mute, so we should be able to hear you when you're ready.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
And here in the chat, we
Can you
want
hear me
to
now?
learn how to make our own spreadsheets. Yeah, move to QuickBooks. Exactly. Yes. Especially because we're seeing that the more complex our business finances get, spreadsheets are not going to cut it anymore. So we need more robust systems. That's why we're very excited to hear from Juliana. Juliana, I cannot hear you.
Irene, I believe, can you hear me now? Okay,
yes.
good.
Yes, I'm like, where's Juliana?
Hear you.
So Juliana, welcome, my dear. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk about my favorite subject, which is QuickBooks. I love QuickBooks. I don't know if you already can tell since I do offer several webinars just on that, just on this. But overall, it's not just that I love QuickBooks, it's that I love organizing finances for small business owners so they can make better business decisions.
Amen. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can share yours.
Perfect. All right, let's see. Bear with me here. I'm hoping we can. Can you guys see that? Yeah.
Yes. Perfect.
All right. Well, welcome. Let's get right into the subject. Irene said, my name is Juliana Ramirez. I am an accounting professional, entrepreneur, 20-year small business bookkeeper, workshop presenter, business advisor, community volunteer, and certified QuickBooks Online Pro advisor. I have trained and helped multiple small businesses, including my own, and I take pride in enabling clients to handle as much or as little of their finances and bookkeeping as they desire. I am a WEVE alumni. I graduated from the SET class in 2012, and in 2017, I was featured as the Pro Advisor of the Month on Intuit's Firm of the Future website. I am also, obviously, the President and CEO of JR Bookkeeping. I'm a business advisor with Economic Development Collaborative, which houses the Small Business Development Center. And I'm also a workshop presenter, and mentor volunteer for SCORE. So if you haven't heard of those organizations too, feel free to ask me after my contact information is right on this slide. Today, we're going to focus on obviously organizing our finances with QuickBooks, how to go from spreadsheets or how to go from um, the desktop version into QuickBooks Online. I do want to clarify that we are mainly or strictly focusing on QuickBooks Online, and I will share the reasons why in a minute. Also, I want to, throughout the presentation, you will then understand why it is so important to have an accounting system and processes in place to organize your finances. And so QuickBooks allows us to do that. And of course, financial reporting, which is going to be the end result of all our hard work in organizing our finances. Brad Smith, who is the former CEO of Intuit, shared these statistics, which emphasize the fact that when the odds against small businesses are that 20% fail in the first year and 50% fail in the first 5 years. However, the odds of success go up 89% if the small business works with an accounting professional and follows their advice. So if you're not working with somebody already, we'd like to encourage you that you please find somebody, find a pro advisor or a trusted advisor who can assist you and help you with your bookkeeping and accounting, because it is true that you are a business owner, not necessarily an accountant. And this is probably one of the reasons that if you are behind in your bookkeeping, the main reason that you are behind is because this is not the best thing you do. And therefore, helping or seeking for help from a professional is the right thing to do for your business. So just keep that in mind. Um, what is QuickBooks and why is it important for businesses to track their finances with this software? Also, what happens if you don't? And where can you buy QuickBooks at the best price? That's what I wanted to touch on this. When you, if you can see here on this slide, QuickBooks is a complete accounting software. I do want to emphasize that QuickBooks is not an industry-specific software, which means that if you are a construction company and you need specific tasks within your industry, QuickBooks may be limited for certain of those tasks. However, it still can do an array of things like, tracking your bills and your expenses and paying them, and finding the information to have business funding and to look at your cash flow, to manage your contractors, to manage your estimates and invoices, and do track the expenses, both the income and the money in and money out, tracking your invoices for your customers and receiving payments towards that, tracking your inventory. When it comes to inventory, QuickBooks is, again, it's limited because it's accounting based. However, if you don't have a very complex inventory aspect within your business, then QuickBooks is the perfect fit. They offer live bookkeeping. Amazingly enough, they have a multi-channel commerce. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, as you can see. So you can convert your existing QuickBooks desktop data to QuickBooks Online using an in-product tool built into your QuickBooks desktop program. So if you're using desktop and want to convert, it's very easy to do so. If you don't and you're using spreadsheets, then you kind of have to start from scratch. And this is why calling a pro advisor to assist you with that process is the best recommendation that I can give you. You can find one by clicking on help in QuickBooks, or you can call me. Now, one of the reasons that QuickBooks Online is recommended is because it's a true cloud-based accounting software. The application lives on the secure USA-based Intuit servers, all with bank-level 128-bit SSL encryption. That means if you have, the concern if QuickBooks Online is not secured, well, they have the same, bank-level security. So if you're already doing banking online, then that means that you're already trusting your finances out on the cloud. And that's the type of encryption that QuickBooks Online offers. So keep that in mind that since 2002, where QuickBooks Online came out, I have never experienced any issues with security for in that aspect. One of the biggest advantages is that you don't need to download or install the software, meaning you can access it from anywhere. As long as you have internet access, you can access that. Um, Obviously, with QuickBooks Desktop, you need to do multiple updates. With QuickBooks Online, it is really updating all the time. So you don't have to be, going in and updating it constantly or anything like that. You don't need any hardware or operating system that is compatible, as long as, like I said, you have Chrome or Safari or, you know, any access to the internet, you'll be able to access QuickBooks. So there's really a lot of advantages. You don't need to maintain a network. You don't need to do backups because QuickBooks itself does the backups. So once again, that is one of the reasons why it's recommended. And the other reason that I really like it is because it's very user friendly. Even though the once you know what you need to do, it's very user friendly. And so that's definitely the best practice or the best option. Within QuickBooks, there are 4 plans, subscriptions, which are the Simple Start, the Essentials, the Plus, and the Advanced. And as you can see in this slide, there's obviously the more advanced or the higher the subscription, the more features that it has. QuickBooks Online Simple Start is like the base model of QuickBooks Online. It is a great business. It is great for businesses that are just starting out. The Simple Start subscription allows access to 1 paid user and 2 accountant users. So if you are going to need multiple people accessing your QuickBooks, not just yourself, then you obviously, the Simple Start may not be the best option. I usually recommend that clients start with essentials and then go up from there if they feel that they need to. And another of the reasons that I recommend that you start with essentials is because it has a very complete reporting, access to reporting. So you always want to know where you're at any given time, and that gives you that information. So prior to choosing which subscription level of QuickBooks Online is right for you, you should identify specific needs and wants. You need to make sure you know who will be accessing QuickBooks Online to ensure that you have the thorough understanding of the workflow and reporting needs. And once you know what your specific needs are, you can choose which level will provide the best solution. When it comes to finding the best price, really the best price is to get it from a pro advisor. As a pro advisor, we get a wholesale discount, which allows us to uh, uh, offer a discount to our clients. And the difference between getting it directly from QuickBooks, which they usually offer an introductory discounted rate of about 50% or sometimes higher, they only do it for a period of time. When you get it from a pro advisor, we get a discount for life, for the life of the company. So you may get a lesser of a discount up front, but at the same time, you're going to get it from a longer period of time. So just keep that in mind. I do have a link here that you can get a temporary discount for you to get that at a better price too. Now, when it comes to QuickBooks and getting right into it, and in a little bit after I go through these slides, and I'm sorry if I'm going a little fast, but I really want to give you guys the live experience. So when it comes to the question, the question and answer or the Q&A portion of the session, I'm going to jump into the live QuickBooks file. Right now, I'm just showing you, just want to really quick go through the different things that you should consider when organizing your finances within QuickBooks. The first thing here is the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts is the backbone of your business. These accounts are used in every transaction and then appear on your financial statements. So you can access your chart of accounts, which QuickBooks comes with a preset chart of accounts, which mirrors the chart of accounts that is required within your tax returns. So if you've been in business for a while, you know that you need to provide your accountant with totals of all the different types and of categories of expenses. So you're already familiar with what this is, but the chart of accounts again helps you to organize your finances. It really helps you to make sure that when you're going to look at financial reports like your profit and loss and your balance sheet, you've categorized things properly. So having a good chart of accounts that identifies what transactions go where is very a key component. So you can access the chart of accounts by going to the gear icon and under the accounting menu within QuickBooks. And again, I'll go through the live to a live demonstration when I finish with these slides. Um, there's also all the lists that are available. There is an all list window within QuickBooks, which contains information on your chart of accounts, recurring transactions. That means if you have a recurring transaction that happens every month around the same date, you can automate it in QuickBooks and save it so that you don't have to enter it all the time. So that's a very good feature that QuickBooks has. Products and services, that is the list of all your services. If you are a retailer, um, keeps track of what products you have on hand and what products you want to sell, and also keeps the history of everything you're selling or every service that you're providing. And the products and services list is where you are going to be introducing all your products or entering all your products and services that you offer. Um, it also gives you the ability to put those products and services by categories. So it allows you to organize them that way. An example of that could be if you are um, like a beauty consultant and you are doing makeup, but you're also doing, let's say, lotion products or like skincare products. You may want to say, well, I want makeup as one category, anything related to makeup, but then anything related to skincare on another category within my own products and services. So that it helps you to organize it that way. You can custom your form styles. In this case, your invoice, if you like to add your logo to your invoice, or if you like to include certain details within your invoices, you can customize those forms. Your payment methods form, like if you receive cash, check, credit card, you're able to modify what those payment methods are. Your terms and attachments. The terms are, you're going to give your clients terms to pay for your services, like, 10 days within the date of the invoice, or if it's due on receipt and things like that. It allows you to create those different terms for your customers. So that way, when you are entering invoices, you can select which terms you want to give in that particular service or invoice. Also, attachments. One of the beauties about QuickBooks Online is that it lets you attach copies of the receipts to all your transactions. So again, I'll show you that during the live presentation. And there's also, if you have class and or location turned on in QuickBooks Plus or Advanced, you would also see these listed here too. So just, things to keep in mind when it comes to organizing. Um, the income transactions, there's multiple ways that you can record income within QuickBooks. You can do it through invoices, you can do it through sales receipts, you can do it to receive payments to those invoices that you've entered by applying credit memos and or just doing it by recording deposits. The sales receipts and invoices are both sales documents. The only difference is when you get paid for your services or products. So for instance, on the sales receipts, you get the money right away. You give the customer your products and services, and they give you a credit card, a check, or cash to be deposited to the bank. Accounts receivable is not involved here, meaning you can still keep track of the sales that you do to a particular customer, because QuickBooks gives you a customer center to be able to track all of the activity within a customer. However, when you're using a sales receipt, you don't need to keep track of, the payment, because the sales receipt on its own records the income and the payment in one transaction. On invoices, you give the customer your products and services and they pay you later. So you fill out an invoice the same way, But there's one more step, which is receiving the payment against that invoice at some point later, and then take the money to the bank. So the account, an invoice uses to let you know who owes you and how much is in accounts receivable. So that's the difference between, invoices and sales receipts, um, and receiving payments. And there's customers that they simply say everything that goes into the bank, it's income. So then, and I don't care to record things by customer. I don't need to. I just know that whatever I sold that day is the money that, that was for sales. In that case, you can just enter that through deposits. Not the best practice, but it's still doable. So QuickBooks gives you as much detail or as little detail as you want to. Expense transactions, you can record expense transactions through through expenses, checks, bills, or credit card credits. Um, the expenses are when you're using your debit or credit card. Checks is when you're obviously using your checking account. And bills and vendor credits are when you receive a bill and you're going to pay it later. And then you obviously apply a bill payment towards that. That's a way to manage how much you owe, even if you're not going to pay it that same day, but in the future. So it does involve accounts payable. And credit card credits. When you have a refund from a credit card, a very common one is you order something from Amazon and you end up having to return an item, right? So you do need to, it's money that it goes back into your credit card or money that gets refunded. So credit card credits are the way to record that money that comes back via a credit card. And again, you can choose to record transactions in any of these ways. It is obviously recommended that if you are using your debit and credit card, you use the expense tab. If you are signing a check, writing a check, that you use the checks tab. And if you're entering bills and paying them later, you also use the bills tab. That's kind of like the difference of how to record expenses in QuickBooks. QuickBooks does come with a sales tax center, and it is a very effective tool. It is important that you establish the appropriate sales tax rates that are applicable on sales and purchases. So if you are not just providing a service, but you are actually selling products and collecting sales taxes, be sure that you are recording these, your sales correctly. And QuickBooks does give you the ability to calculating tax for you based on the location that you are either shipping the item or selling the item from. It is very important that you understand the sales tax requirements for your locations. Sales tax is usually turned on during the QuickBooks Online company setup process, but you didn't, if you didn't turn it on at the beginning, you can turn it on at any time, as well as you can turn it off. You can also enter a single tax rate item or a combined tax rate in your, if your state requires that. So an example of that is if you are, California sales tax is 7.25. But we know there are certain cities or certain districts that charge a higher sales tax. So that's what a combined sales tax rate is, where you are collecting the California tax, which is the 7.25, but you're also collecting that city's sales tax. So QuickBooks helps you with managing that. It also helps you with managing the payments towards those sales taxes and the reporting. You cannot report sales taxes right from QuickBooks, but you can pull data from the software to be able to file your sales taxes on time and accurately. The bank's feeds and reconciling, very important. The bank feeds is in QuickBooks is one of the most dynamic features in the program. It links your online bank and credit card accounts and feeds the transactions automatically and directly into the banking center without any ongoing maintenance from you. Now, when I say that is the best practice in accounting is that you are recording transactions as they're happening, that you're not waiting until they clear the bank for you to record them. That is obviously a best accounting practice. However, QuickBooks does let you to not do that and just record them as they're coming. So definitely banking simplifies the data entry and can really help businesses get a handle on their balances. And it also assists with reconciling your bank accounts monthly. When the transactions are pulled in, um, they are non-posting, meaning you connect your bank account with QuickBooks and it reads the information right from your bank. But this means you are looking at the list of transactions the bank and credit card says you have. They are not recording until they're not recorded until you match them to previously recorded transactions or use them to add new transactions to your register. An example would be you write a check and you record it in your QuickBooks. So now it's recorded there and it's sitting there waiting to clear. And then 2 or 3 days later, it clears your bank. Then when it clears your bank, QuickBooks automatically matches that transaction. So that's where you will see that word match on the screen, and you'll notice also that there's a little green area that says record found, meaning you have a check that you recorded ahead of time. Now now it's cleared the bank. Now there is a match there. When there's no record found or where there's no match, then the option is for you to add that as a new transaction. An example of that would be I don't record my, uh, pumping gas as it happened. I just wait until actually it shows up in my bank. Then you would, simply add it right from the screen. So you can definitely, use that. This is why it's the most dynamic feature within QuickBooks. Obviously, the online banking simplifies the process of data entry and can really help businesses get a handle on their balances. Like I already mentioned, when you use bank feeds to enter your transactions, your accounts become self-reconciling. And I put that quote unquote self-reconciling because you are entering them. And what that means is that each transaction is matched to the bank, like I said, as they are entered, but they're already marked as clear when you come to reconciling your transactions. So a transaction that has been matched or was created from a bank feed has the letter C next to in the register. So when you open your bank register, notice how, to go to the register, you can just click. So once again, I want to kind of back up a little bit. First is you get the information that it's read from the bank, and then you review it and you either match it or add it. And after you do that, then it obviously now is on your bank register. So if you had a checkbook, the register looks just like the checkbook. I've written this check on this date, on for this amount to this person for this type of expense. Same thing. So once that transaction has been matched or added, then it has a little C next to it, which means it's clear the bank. And a transaction that has been marked in the in that section, then when you come to the reconciliation screen and you reconcile it, then it has an R next to it, which means it's been reconciled.
Juliana, sorry to interrupt you. We have a question.
Yes.
Do banks charge to link your online banking with QuickBooks?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Do banks charge anything for that link between QuickBooks and our online banking?
Very good question. And no, they don't. And this is one of the other reasons that I love QuickBooks Online, because it does work, because it does have that security and user-friendly platform and feel. It does work with almost all banks. And even if your bank doesn't have that ability to work with QuickBooks, there are sometimes banks that have the ability to create a download called a QBO download, which then allows you to import transactions into your QuickBooks. And there's no charge for that.
Because that's wonderful. And we have another question for you.
Yeah.
One of our participants, she says that she uses a credit card and also uses her business bank account to pay the card.
Mm-hmm.
So her credit card and bank account are linked. Yes. What does she do when they both show as a transaction?
So if you are, so one of the best practices is to first focus on one account and record the activity from that account, which when you come to that payment that you've made to that credit card, you're going to add that payment to your, to your QuickBooks, assigning that credit card payment to the credit card that you've used. So now that transaction is going to be recorded. Now, again, you first focus on the first account and add transactions that way. Then when you come to the second account, let's say in this case, the credit card, then you should now have a record found because you've already recorded the payment from within the checking account. So that's already created that transaction, like in this case, a check or a debit card transaction for that credit card payment. Now, when you come to the credit card, now you should be able to see a record found, so that then all you have to do is match it and not duplicate it. And that is that is specific transaction, or it's a very common error that I see in businesses. They match their books, and they are accepting transactions on both the checking account and the credit card, and they miss the fact that one transaction is actually touching two accounts. So because one transaction is touching two accounts, they unfortunately sometimes add both transactions as they see them separate within each transaction. And I can show you in the live demonstration how we can go about that. So just keep in mind that, you do have the ability to review your transactions before they go into your books. That's really the ability. The fact that you connect your bank accounts with QuickBooks doesn't mean that the work is done. That means
Mhm.
that, it's being facilitated, it's being simplified, but you still have to do some work yourself. Um, And like I mentioned, although the bank feeds in QuickBooks Online matches entries to the bank or credit card accounts, it is a best practice to reconcile the bank accounts monthly using the Reconcile feature. So the fact that, like I said before, they're self-reconciling as you're entering them, that doesn't mean that they're really reconciled. They're just simply being added to your QuickBooks. The reconciliation process helps find errors and omissions between QuickBooks and the bank. It also helps us identify if we have duplicated a transaction or missed a transaction. That really helps us in that process. Another reason that I really make sure that our clients, or my clients understand the process of reconciling is because sometimes you might record a transaction and never cleared it, never really reconcile it. And maybe a duplicate transaction there sitting in your books, just waiting to be reconciled, and you don't reconcile it because you already added another transaction that was a duplicate of that, and then you kind of leave that in your books. Well, obviously then your books are not going to reflect the right balances, and of course your expenses are not going to be accurately amounted for or accounted for. So I have unfortunately seen duplication sometimes in income, because they have an invoice and a payment, and they record that in QuickBooks, but then they see the deposit and they add that deposit as an additional income. That's another common error, where you now have two transactions that are really just the one transaction. So having a process for how to do that, it's really key. um, it obviously, the reconciliation changes the reconcile tag on transactions from C to R, meaning cleared, that they clear the bank, R, that they're reconcile, giving you another way to filter reports, and helps troubleshoot issues with your bank feeds. So that's another very important aspect within reconciling. So make sure that you are reconciling your bank, credit card accounts, and loans monthly. Don't wait until the end of the year to reconciling them.
Juliana, speaking
Yes.
of what you just said about credit cards, we had a question about what happens when you pay your credit card at the end of the week and then the amount is off, probably, I'm assuming, interest rates because of credit. How
Mhm.
do you reconcile that if the amounts are different? Do you have to factor in like the interest rate amount? How do you
You,
do that?
you do, and actually, when you go through the reconciliation process on a credit card, QuickBooks does give you a window where you can enter the interest for that credit card. Most banks, though, or most bank feeds, the interest itself becomes a transaction, so it actually does reconcile accordingly. When I have seen errors where something's not matching is when there is a beginning balance that when you connect your bank accounts, QuickBooks automatically creates a journal entry of an opening balance. It's kind of like like an entry that is needed to establish the beginning balance on the account at the time that you connected the bank account. But that doesn't mean that that entry is accurate. That just means that QuickBooks needed something to account for the balance, the beginning balance on that account. So usually when I see a discrepancy on the beginning balance and the current balance is usually that entry, which most clients or most users don't know how to correct that or don't know that QuickBooks does that. And again, this is why having a professional helping you, because again, they have experience, they know what needs to be done with that transaction. But yes, QuickBooks does allow you to account for the income and expenses. Or I'm sorry, of the expense of that interest.
Interesting. Thank you, Juliana.
Yeah, one of the greatest benefits of using QuickBooks also is to manage a business. In managing your business is in the reporting capabilities of the program. The setup, recording of financial entries, and reconciliation of accounts results in the ability to create reports that provide valuable insight into the financial position of a business, the results of operations for a specific time period, and or statistical information such as the best-selling item or gross profit margin. And this information helps users make better financial decisions. So one of the the great things about QuickBooks, it gives you list reports, which include information about lists like customers, vendors, products and services, or transactions such as invoices and bills. Nothing is totaled on these reports. They are just lists, right? So that's the list report. The summary reports contain summary information, and they're listed by name or by account, such as your profit and loss summary, your balance sheet summary, your sales by customer, your sales by product and service. That it does give you a total for these amounts. The detailed reports, they contain transaction detail about of a particular account. So for instance, your profit and loss in detail, it doesn't only show the revenue, but it shows you where the revenue came from. The balance sheet also detail, it also gives you, not just the total of what's sitting in that account, but where that, what made up that balance on that account. And the same thing with accounts payable, aging detail, or the accounts receivable aging detail gives you who owes you and where do they owe you from. So what makes up your totals there. And the specialized reports in QuickBooks online, it's really a summary or detail. Sorry, it's not just a list, summary, or detail. These types of reports combine information from different sources, creating the report. So for instance, something like the statement of cash flow. So it's a combination of not just the profit and loss, but also the balance sheet to see how much money went not just to expenses, but also maybe to loans or assets if you acquired any of those. So it helps you with that information. It gives you an audit log. So if you have multiple users in QuickBooks, who's done any activity and what that is for. And like a payroll liability report, something that tells you, what liabilities are due and where they were collected from. So just keep that in mind as far as when it comes to reporting. It's not just your profit and loss, but it's really much more detail, much more insight within your business. And financial reports, you always need to make sure that these reports are accurate, you have a handle and understand them. Because if you don't, then, everything that you might be doing could not, be the right thing. So one of the greatest benefits of using QuickBooks Online to manage a business is the reporting capabilities, like I already mentioned, and understanding the balance sheet. I usually like to start with the balance sheet because that is what tells us what your financial position is. That shows us what you own, what you owe, and what your net worth is. And if that report is not accurate, it doesn't matter how great your profit and loss it is, because the balance sheet is going to have that accurate information of where you really stand financially. Your profit and loss, I usually recommend that you run it by month and with percentages, so that way you can figure out, of every $100 that you spend in your business, how much is going towards what expense and towards cost of goods sold and so on. Another two reports that I really recommend that you have a really good handle on and make sure that they're accurate is your accounts receivable aging, which is a listing of what your customers owe you and how far along they are, like how late or how current they are with the monies that they owe you. And accounts payable is also the same thing, but for your vendors, where you know how much do I owe each of my vendors, how long have I owed them for, and where that comes, where those balances come from. Do we have a question?
Yes, Juliana.
Okay.
What are the disadvantages of using bank feeds?
I really don't see a disadvantage of using bank feeds. If anything, it really helps me with data entry. I've always shared that when I switched my practice from QuickBooks desktop to online, I was able to save about 30 hours per month just just in time because I didn't have to manually enter transactions. I could just, add them right from the bank feeds. So um, I really don't see a disadvantage, if anything, and I'll show you really quick in a minute how you can really see the difference between what's in the bank versus what's in QuickBooks and what that means. So that's I hardly have seen it. I cannot come up with a reason or the disadvantage of bank feeds other than if you don't know how to utilize it or how to really use it towards your advantage, you could really create a mess. So be careful on that.
And our same participant is saying that if they use Stripe to process credit card payments, they also deposit several payments at a time. Wouldn't that complicate the sales receipts in QuickBooks?
Not necessarily, and I'll go through that in just a minute. So because I do want to show you how it's really not that complicated, and if anything, it really helps you with. It's really one of the reasons why you should really implement a process within your business, so that then you know how to do certain things, so that when it comes to banking feeds, you don't encounter that error or that as a problem. I just really quick want to just say creating an outline of bookkeeping tasks is something that will help you tremendously in the process of your business. Having a process and system in place to maintain your books and stay up to date is really going to help you um, with making sure that you're doing the right things, over and over. So I thought I had it. Let me see here. I believe I did. Oh, it's because the screen is touching. This is a sample bookkeeping task that I will be sending, or we will be sending as part of the follow-up. So that way, my recommendation is that you customize it to your own business needs. So, create a list of the things that you should be doing daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual. And you can remove if they don't apply to you, or you can add to this list. This way you know exactly what needs to be done and when. My recommendation is that you select a day within your week that you say, every Wednesday, if it's my weekly task, every Wednesday I'm going to do this, or every Friday, or every Thursday, or every Saturday, whatever that day is, that you stay consistent there. Same thing for daily tasks that you're going to say, I'm going to dedicate 15 to 20 minutes to doing these daily tasks. That way, really, you never fall behind, and you always have a process in place to follow. Now I'm going to jump right into QuickBooks, because I want to go, since there was that question on the sales receipts. When you have sales receipts, if you record your sales, so you would just simply go here to the new and do a sales receipt here. I'm going to look for a previous one. So an example would be this one right here from 8/31. These are, the monthly sales for this particular customer. And these you can select to put them to either a petty cash account or a cash on hand or a cash register. But in your case, let's just say that you decide to put them under undeposited funds. So Stripe, I'm thinking Stripe. So let's pretend that this is a Stripe sale where we're saying we have Stripe sales for this amount, and Stripe is going to take a fee from the deposit or from that sales total. In that case, also notice how QuickBooks helps us with the sales taxes, right? Notice how here we enter the amount of sales, and then it calculates the tax for us, and then it gives us a grand total. When we put the sales receipt to undeposited funds and then record it, now we need to do another step, which is recording a deposit, because that's the deposits that's going to show up on our bank feeds. So our deposit, before we actually go to the bank feeds, we're going to go into QuickBooks and we're going to say bank deposit. When we click on bank deposit, now we're going to see that sales receipt here. So again, think of it as your Stripe sale. We're going to select it. And if Stripe took a fee for this transaction, let's say Stripe took 2% of this, right? So about $120 from this was kept by Stripe. Then in that case, what we do is we say Stripe, that's our vendor, right? Even though it says receive from, we're going to say our vendor Stripe, because that's who they are. Charge merchant account fees from this sale, and you can either enter a method or not, or a reference number or not. I usually don't. And I'm going to say they kept $120 from this deposit. So I'm going to enter that as a negative here. So then my deposit is going to be my full sale, which again, that accounts for my income and my sales taxes. So that QuickBooks has already done that tracking of that sale. But because Stripe kept a fee, or if it's not Stripe, it could be Square. This applies exactly like this for Square sales. Now Square or Stripe kept a fee, and now this is what is going to be deposited into my bank account. So now I'm going to be able to match this with my bank feed because I've recorded the transaction accordingly. So this is one of the ways that QuickBooks does help you track three things here. It helped you track the income, which was your sale. It helped you track your sales taxes, which is the tax that you collected that is not income. It's a liability because we owe it to the Board of Equalization, or in this case, the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. And it also is helping you to record the expense of a merchant fee, all within one or two transactions. So then from here, we just simply say save and close. Of course, I don't have a deposit for this amount, so I wouldn't be able to go into the transactions tab in banking to be able to match that deposit, right? But normally that deposit, that Stripe deposit will show up here as the money in, and then we would be able to match it with the transaction or that deposit that I already had created. So this is why I say recording things ahead of time is really a best accounting practice, because you're going to then be able to come to QuickBooks and just confirm that whatever you've done has been, matches what the bank has created, and that way you can identify any errors. All right, now this is the time for questions if we have time. You're muted.
Of course, happens all the time. So okay. We have another question about Stripe as well. So it says, but when Stripe deposits, it doesn't tell you which payment it's depositing. How can we address something like that?
Well, so Stripe does give you the ability to access your account online, right? So you should be able to, so there's two ways that you can look at your Stripe sales. If you are, let's say, processing all your sales and payments through Stripe, and you want to use that as your sales source, meaning that's where you are going to have all the detail of the types of sales, then what you can do is then enter a sales receipt, just like I showed you, just for that day, for that total. However, if you want to keep track of those sales within QuickBooks, then you're gonna, in a way, you're gonna need to go into Stripe and into QuickBooks and recreate the activity from Stripe. Stripe does have the ability to connect to QuickBooks. So look into that, because when you connect Stripe with QuickBooks, then it helps you with that data entry instead of, recording each transaction manually yourself. Then it could help you with recording the transactions, um, automatically from Stripe to QuickBooks. So in other words, it reads the information from Stripe. So understand, what is the Stripe being used for? Is it just being used for payment processing? And if that's the case, then that means you need to have a sales source, and that in this case you would need to enter a sales receipt in your QuickBooks for that payment transaction. So understand what you're using Stripe for and how you're using it, so that then you know what data and how you're going to enter that, that transaction in QuickBooks.
Perfect. One other question we had, could you add to the chat the link that you shared at the beginning with through Pro Advisors if people are interested in getting QuickBooks so that they can get that lesser rate?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, here's my contact information. If they visit my website, they can actually, access the information on that. So I'll just leave this here for a second. I am offering a 1 month free of services, whatever services you need. So keep that in mind and take advantage of it. Maybe you can use that towards, setting up your QuickBooks and going through those questions of, how would I do this for my business, or how would I do that for my, for how I record payments, or how I do, those kinds of things. So keep that in mind. And I will go back to that slide. Give me 1 second. Do we have any more questions? Oops, I
We
think
have
I skipped it
another question from
right here.
one of our participants. She's asking, do we have a list of recommended accountants that can help us with our QuickBooks Online? I want to add to this question. I'm also going to leave my contact information at the end of the presentation. Feel free to reach out, because I think this is a deeper conversation, right? Because there's many professionals that can help with their accounting, not only a CPA, but also bookkeepers or even QuickBooks coaches, which we have through our WEV programs. So I think there's a lot of different resources out there that we would love to be able to share. And also I would definitely recommend you to write down Juliana's information. She's incredible. We love having her with us because of all her wisdom, and she's so willing to share her time as well to go through how can we get organized, right? So I would encourage you also to write down Juliana's information. I'm going to put up my information as well, because it is a deeper conversation depending on the stage of your business and what exactly you need. There might be a different professional that can help us, right?
Right. And also keep in mind that, there are accountants that specify in a particular industry or a particular software or a particular, um, um, they recommend, a particular app. I personally recommend QuickBooks because it does work very well for small businesses, and it's very user friendly. And that's why I made that my software of choice, for helping my clients with their finances. And I have found it very helpful. I would one of the things I would also recommend is that when you are talking to a bookkeeper or accountant, is that you ensure that they have the latest in knowledge in accounting technology, because it's going to save you time and it's going to save you money. And the fact that you have to do things manually, that really, puts a disadvantage. So make sure that they understand and they love the latest in accounting technology, right? That's one thing. And then number two is that that you feel good about, you trusting them, and that you feel good about, working with them. You need to be able to feel comfortable talking about your money with somebody. I have often found that there's not really a problem with money. It's really just your relationship with it. And many clients, avoid looking at their finances because of their relationship with it. And when you have the information at your fingertips of knowing where you stand, I quickly want to just run a report here just to give you an idea of when you're doing your bookkeeping and accounting, utilizing the features and the processes recommended. Then you are able to go and pull a profit and loss. And in that profit and loss, then you are able, let's say we want to do this year to last month, you're able to then run this report and see how you're doing, but in the year, like if you're not making money, like, what does that mean in your bottom line? Let's say I'm just going to simplify this report where I'm just going to make it really collapse so we can see it. QuickBooks, in this case, from essentials up, allows you to do something like percentages of income. When you're doing that, now you can see that for every $100, let's just say in the example of this company, 36 goes towards cost of goods sold. That is, if this is a restaurant, the cost of the product, and then where else their money is going. So for every $100 that come into the business, 36 goes towards direct cost of in the purchases, and then they're left with $63 to then pay for operating expenses. Well, when you look at operating expenses, then you can see, 40 cents go towards bank service charges, 88 cents goes towards rental, and so on. Notice here, what is the biggest expense here? They have professional fees at 7%. They have rent expense at 15%. They have salaries and wages at 67%. For me, this right here, I can right away say, look, you are not even making enough to pay your staff. So we need to, we need to do something and I'll analyze. This is where sometimes having this information at your fingertips gives you the ability to say, you know what, I'm losing for every $100 that come in, I'm losing $40. How is that possible? This then confirms why you are, feeling stressed, or why you're feeling the way you're feeling, or not able to pay things or meet obligations as, as needed. But then having that information then gives you the ability to say, that means that, price increase that I've been longing to do or that I've been avoiding to do on my product needs to go up, because otherwise I'm not, I'm not going to last long. Or it could be vice versa. It could be that you are doing very well and that you are, bringing in the income, and that you are really, staying within your percentages. Well, having that confirmation that you've really, done, well, and are hitting your goals, is going to be a great feeling. So just, definitely, different things. This can also be run by, you can compare it to previous year and the change that it's had in both income and percentages. So here you can see, last year, of course, 2020 has been a difficult year for most people. So then you can see, yes, our sales went down 37%. When a lender is asking you, how has your business been impacted with COVID? You can say, you know what, I had a 37% reduction in sales compared to last year. And, same thing, of course, our cost of goods sold, you know, also reflects that, and everything else reflects that. Notice here how this business had actually an increase in cost of salaries and wages instead of a decrease. If your sales decreased, then that means your cost of labor should have also decreased. And unfortunately, it has. And now this is where, we are at this point of looking at a very, very big loss. Anyway, this is what QuickBooks can do for you if you, again, utilize it to your advantage and to organize it well. Again, I will stop sharing my screen, and that way you can share yours, Irene. Any additional questions?
I don't see any yet. I just want to take a moment to thank Juliana for being here with us. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom here. It's a pleasure to have this experience of our financial education series with people like you.
Thank
And
you.
I want to invite everyone, if there's a question that comes up later in the day, please feel free to reach out to either Juliana or myself. I'm going to share my screen again so that you can see my contact information. Also, I would like to invite you to some of our upcoming webinars. One is going to be part of our WEV Works series called Work-Life Balance for Working Parents, coming up in November. And the next financial empowerment webinar we're going to be having, it's also in November, November 19th. It's called Managing and Understanding Your Debt During COVID. I am going to be facilitating that webinar, and I'm going to paste in our chat to make it a little easier. I'm just going to paste the registration information in case you want to be able to attend. Other than that, we are very, very thankful to have you here. I hope that you feel much more confident about taking control over your finances and getting organized. Getting organized can truly, truly make a difference, as Juliana was saying. So, and remember that you're not alone in this journey. We're here to help you. So please feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. And again, thank you for being here. And thank you, Juliana, so much for being here as well.
Thank you, Irene, and thank you, Women Economic Ventures, for what you do.
It's our pleasure. So, and I'm going to stop the recording so that we can send that your way after this webinar. And hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. We're going to stay here for 3 more minutes in case anybody has any other questions.